I found a cool page, AISstream.io, which offers AIS data via WebSockets. So we will establish a Node-RED WebSocket and get AIS data for a region we are interested in. So this is AISstream.io, and this page offers real-time AIS data for free, which is cool because if you take a look at AISHub, for example, they also offer an API, and maybe this page is quite common and well known. However, you need to send your own stream, otherwise you don't get any data out of it. So if you don't have a stream to offer, the better choice is AISstreams.io. And if we take a look at the documentation here, we find that secured WebSockets are used. And WebSockets are something interesting. And I first thought if we can do this with the Pico, but then I thought, okay, let's do this with Node-RED. You need an own API key. To get your API key, you need to register, and the easiest thing is you just log in with your GitHub account. If you don't have a GitHub account, you can open any GitHub account for free, and then you just log in with your GitHub account, and you get an API key. Yeah, so you can copy this API key from AIS Stream. So this is for free. You can delete it and recreate a new one if this is necessary. You just need your GitHub account. Maybe there are other ways, but it's easy to get an API key here, and it is for free, so just do it. Before we start, let's take a short look in the reference here of the AIS Stream API. What you have to do is you have to send a start message after establishing the connection. And this includes the API key and a box. Or more than one box. So a box always consists of two pairs, so it's usually a square. And we will do this with Google Maps. Take a look which coordinates, latitude, longitude we need. So this must be sent once, and afterwards we are subscribed, and we get for these areas the information in NMEA format, but as a JSON with the latitude, longitude, and all the information about the AIS content. There are examples for JavaScript, which is used in Node-RED, but we will use the nodes itself. So we could use a Node-RED function node, but we will do this with the complete existing nodes. We could do this with Python as well, maybe next time. So let's start with Node-RED now. So what is a WebSocket? A WebSocket is something which works like an API, but based rather on HTTP, so that it's also web browser can link or hook to WebSockets. So WebSocket is not a call-based routine. You can subscribe. So to subscribe, we need to send something first. And in this case, we will send a JSON array, and this JSON array needs some data. So in the API reference, you find the two things you have to send. One is the API key, the other one are bounding boxes, so boxes for the area you want to receive AIS data. Let's start with the API key. So we create our JSON structure, and the first thing is the API key. And here you have to place your API key. We'll do this later. And the second one are the bounding, is it a capital letter? Yes, bounding boxes. And here we have to put in an array with the coordinates of the interested area. Let's take a look on Google Maps. And now you pick the lower left corner, for example, so it's always a square. As far as I know, you can't do rectangles. However, let's take here the lower left corner, and I copy the data. And we can just simply enter this here. By the way, which also is nice, when you use JSON, you can also use JSON data, but if you use a JSON and you go back, you see that he did change the structure, and you can also use the visual editor, and you see that I got an array here with the two inputs, and we could simply create another element inside the array. So, but we want a complete new array now. So I delete this one. I could do this on this level and say element. So then I have a second array. And here I want to have, oh, wrong one. I want to have the same. Again, I'm not able to learn. It is a new element. And we need another element. So we have now our two arrays, we have a second array here. And you see here our array 0, our array 1. This is still empty, so we set this to number. This one as well. And we can just pick another corner. So we took this one here. Let's say we want to go up to here and take these numbers. We go back. Of course, we just need the numbers now because this was the wrong one. Not sure if this is important. It must be important, of course. He will take a look where latitude and longitude is. And when you go back, you see that he did structure our JSON format. And that's very nice, so we don't have to do this. However, I noticed that we need another rectangular bracket here because you can send more than one box. So one box for the boundings. So now when you put another rectangular bracket around, you have one array for the first pair, for your first box, and you can add more than one array if you like, or another array on this level to send more boxes. So if you want to monitor more areas which are not linked to each other. By the way, it was written in the documentation that they can also overlap, and you will still get the information for just once, which is very nice. So I still have the wrong API key, but let's do a test first and take a debug log here just to see what happens. It says missing server configuration. Yeah, that's true because you have to configure a WebSocket. I will take connect to, not listen. And we put in a new, you will have a new type here. You just say new type and you enter the address which is given somewhere here in the reference here. So you just simply copy this address to your URL and you can keep the TLS standard configuration. We don't need certificates or anything like this, but it is a standard TLS configuration. We take this payload only, we don't need a heartbeat usually, and you can just say add. I have this usually already, but anyway. Okay, and we say connect, you can give this a name, maybe we call this now AIS stream. And let's take a look what happens when we connect. You see that I get my API key and the array, but I get a connection error and you don't get any message. And the reason is that we also need now a WebSocket in node. I take this one, connect it with my debug node as well, and I take the same server configuration for connect to. You see I have it twice because I did this already. Oh, it's one time it was com and one time IO. Let's take a look if both are working. Which one did we take here? Com, okay. Then let's take here com as well. And I just call this receive. And let's give another try. You remember that my API key is wrong, but we want to get a connection. It seems that the com is not working. And this is interesting because last time I took the this one, the IO, and here it states com. I don't know. Let's switch to the IO. So you just simply have to add IO. It's the same configuration. And also on this one to IO. And it says connected. So a little little error in their documentation that they say com here, but AO here, IO here, so IO is the correct one. Okay, now we can connect, and we can, when we are connected, we can send a stream and we get a message, and we can't read this message. That's because we have to convert this into JSON. So I remove this one again, put in not a join, a JSON converter node, and let's give it a try again. All right. And now we have this com node, and I will just simply delete it because we don't need this anymore. All right. We go back to our connection, and now we see our sending message, and we get an error. API key is not valid. Of course not. So let me correct my API key now. So I changed my API key, but I didn't deploy it yet. One thing which you might change already. You see that the server is connecting automatically, so it's not linked to our sending. It helps when you wait until it's connected before you send something. So what I will do now is I will change my node, my inject node, to send once after, and I take maybe 1.5 seconds. And when we now deploy it, let's take a look. It will automatically send it, hopefully when it's already connected. Well, maybe it was a little bit too early because we don't get any feedback, but it stays connected. So that seems that it did arrive, but that there's currently no data because it stays connected. This is already a good sign. And yeah, we get the first data. So now it's working. So it takes the API key. And let's take a look into some metadata here. For example, here is the ship Berlin MMSI. We get latitude and longitude. And let's take a look on Vessel Finder if we can find it there as well. So I did copy the MMSI, and we are now here on Vessel Finder, and you can see this is more or less our area here. And we can take a look. Oh, I did copy too much, let's say. So this was our, let's do this by marking it and putting in, and here's the Berlin, and we can see where it is located. Looks like it is in Travemünde at the port currently. So this was here our lower corner, so that is inside of our box, and we get this information directly to Node-NED and some other ships as well. Just for the sake of fun, let's take a second one, the Pötenitz here, which is latitude, longitude. Which is also in Travemünde. So you can see that this is working, and we get more data as well. Here's a message, and there's information like the speed and what they currently do and so on. So the normal AIS data, but as a nice JSON object which you can utilize and convert. So well guys, for what did we do it? So first of all, WebSockets are quite common, and it was a good chance to deal and learn about WebSockets, and I hope you enjoyed it so far. And yeah, maybe you also have a use case for this AIS data. On a boat, I would still recommend to use the antenna because it was also working without an internet connection, which is quite important for your safety. However, I hope you learned something and you enjoyed it, and see you next time.
See you next time.